Welcome back to the Perfectly Holistic Podcast. I am Pam Roussel, and I am so excited to be back with another interesting conversation. And one of my really great friends, Dr. Odette Suter, is here. And how are you? How have you been?
Good, good. Thanks for having me again, Pam. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad that once in a while we see each other
I
somewhere.
know it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with my media manager one day, and we were talking about how important or how amazing it would be if vets kind of tapped into the energetic, intuitive side to meld into their practice of integrative or conventional work and helping pets and so I have to give credit to Paige because this she kind of came up with the topic and we were just like, wow, that's a really good conversation. I wish more vets would do it, and be more open to it. And specifically, we kind of were talking about more the animal communication and tapping into that aspect of talking to the pet that they're working on. And then it kind of blossomed into, well, what about all these other cool energetics and things that most people think would label more as a woo woo or it's not real or whatever. And some people probably think animal communication isn't either. But I just feel like they haven't been exposed to it in the real true sense of the word. So they may just not know, right? A lot of people just don't know what they don't know. I was there once, so I get that. But when I was trying to think of who the perfect person would be to talk to, you were the first one that popped into my head because I know you have such a gift of intuition, and we talked briefly about that more like in person, but not really on a podcast or an event or a specific live or anything. But I thought, this is a really cool topic, and so thank you for joining me for this conversation because I think it's going to be pretty cool. And I want people to after they hear this to kind of just I want to plant some seeds. I
Mhm.
want to plant some seeds into maybe some vets out there who may realize or have an like a little inkling that I get these downloads or I get this information. I don't really know where it comes from, but I kind of just know things or I hear things or I sense things or whatever it is. And maybe we can kind of shine some light on what those things might be that they can start tapping into and merge into how they practice with animals. So that
Mhm.
that was my thought. So tell me, like, for you personally, when you work with a client, brand new, current client, maybe they've been around for a while, how do you approach working with them intuitively and merging all of the other stuff that you do?
Yeah, so in my practice, I don't really talk that much about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more I just use it as part of my tools. So I don't I will not necessarily say, oh, your animal is saying this, your animal is saying that. It's just, I'm kind of using what I'm getting to mine and their advantage, so
Yes.
to speak, to help them, because that's kind of the information that as a doctor I need to have. How are they feeling? Where may things be off a little bit, that sort of thing. But certainly when I sense that there is a challenge between because a lot of times animals will have emotions kind of stored somewhere, just like
Yeah.
us humans too. We store, emotions get stored somewhere, and that can then cause a bit of an energy, block, or just slow things down or whatever, disturb.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when things like that come up, and I feel like the owner needs to know, and because it will help the animal to release something, and it will also help the owner to be aware of it and maybe also release something in them, because often it's, there's obviously a connection. So then I will certainly express it, particularly after animals have passed away. I find that so important because people Oftentimes we'll get stuck in the guilt, in the judgment, in the should have, could have, too early, too late, too whatever. There's so much burden on that then prevents people from actually still feeling the love for the animals and have some relief. And so just
Yeah.
having that one conversation afterwards, I have found to be extremely important, to just allow them to let go of whatever they're carrying, shame and failure and all of these nasty sort of things that can really prevent them from, having a, I mean, obviously we never have a really good experience when an animal passes because there's always sadness involved, but it doesn't have to be excruciatingly painful and, loaded with all of these, feelings that I just mentioned. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really where it's really important to provide some relief, because that's the way forward, because then people can still feel connected to their animals. They can, they can actually feel it. They can have an experience of it rather than being in so much, have so much stuff around them that they can't even feel their animals anymore, which that is so much more pain, obviously. So that's kind of a place where I find it very, very helpful as well.
That's amazing. Because I know some people that are still stuck in the grief after
Mm,
3, 4 years of losing a pet. Like they'll still cry, you
yeah.
know, and they still carry the guilt, or they didn't do enough, or whatever it was. And I'm like, wow, wow, you know, you got to learn to let some of that go. And hearing from the pet can just make a
Oh
huge
yeah. So
difference, because the pet's like, hello, I'm good. I'm good. You did
no, because they don't have the same. I mean, they're like, I'm gone. I'm well gone. I've transitioned. It's not like they're gone,
right.
because that's what we
Right.
think they're gone, but they're not gone. They're still around. I mean,
Yes.
so many times I can then feel them, or people will tell me, oh, my remaining animal is taking on the characteristics of the one that just left.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
it's like they're still here.
They
Uh,
are.
so I want people to be able to feel them, obviously. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, one really sad case was where a woman had left, had to let go of her dog, and she had so much guilt. And I asked her, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive yourself? Because she felt like at fault. I don't remember the circumstances, but
Yeah.
what I remember is she said, no, I will never forgive myself. And
Mm.
that was, I mean, it stayed with me. I mean,
Yeah.
I still remember it because I'm like, oh my God, because I could see how amazing she was. She had such a big heart, and to hear that she will never forgive herself is like, oh my God, that's so sad.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah.
Do you think that animals experience consciousness in a similar way to humans or differently?
Well, I think they sense it differently because they're not so much in the future,
Mm-hmm.
projecting
Mm-hmm.
years from the future
Yeah,
into the sorry,
the
they're
past.
not so much in the past
Yeah.
and
Okay.
projecting whatever the past did into the future, like we humans do. They're much more in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have, yeah, they're just usually just happy and present, where so they have access to a more expansive sort of sense of reality than we do, because we are kind of stuck on this one track thing of, okay, I got to do this or I got to do that, and this is coming up, and we have all these deadlines and things like that. They're just live in the moment. They go for a walk, they don't think that, oh, I have to be back in 45 minutes or something like that. They just go and enjoy, and they're
Yeah.
present, they sniff. So I think they probably have a more expansive sort of connection, because
Mm-hmm.
they are part of the environment, they're part of the bigger energies, whereas we tend to separate ourselves off because of our brains, basically. So we try to meditate, right? To kind of get into that place that they naturally are. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always thought that animals are already like they're on a totally different spiritual level. Even like I see them as little higher beings, but they're in little fur bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't view the problems that they don't view life the way we see things. Like you said, they're more present, they're more in the moment. I think there's so much that we can learn and take away from that just by watching their examples.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they definitely don't grieve the way we
Oh,
grieve.
no.
I mean, they do. Some pets really can go through a grief process when they lose their guardian, or a sibling or a family member or something like that, but not in the way that humans kind of hold on to things.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to just move on, like you said, transition, and then they're in another place. It's just a different realm, a different level of consciousness, which is really interesting. Um, and I do know that they can see spirits very easily. We don't have that ability with our eyes, but they see things, um, which makes me feel like it's they kind of live maybe on that edge between both realms,
Mm-hmm.
and they can, because they have that ability to see things and experience things that we can't. So that's really cool. Do you
Well, I mean,
think?
I'm not sure that we can't. It's just that we've not been trained
Right.
to, because when you first started talking about animal communication and such, I was thinking, well, I want to say that I've not always been intuitive. I mean, I no, let's just say I've probably been intuitive my whole life, but I wasn't aware of it. And I think that's for most people, they walk around feeling things. I mean, there are a lot of people who are empaths, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Feel
mm-hmm.
things. They may not be able to put a name to it, and they're like, "Well, I'm just not feeling good. What's wrong with me?" Right? That's usually what I say.
Yeah.
Whereas it's probably that, I mean, right now we're certainly in a soup of change, so everybody is picking up on all that stress that's going on. But I think in the end, everybody can do it, see it, hear it, in whatever way that. I mean, for me, feeling is more of it, and then and knowing rather than,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to me, the visual is not as important. Maybe I don't
Right. And I
know.
would agree with you, because I think on a higher dimensional level, it's not going to be about seeing, it's going to be more of the feeling and the emotional side.
Yeah, I mean, however it shows up for
Yeah.
anyone, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
in any case, I just wanted to put it out there because I know that there are a lot of animal communicators out there who say, "Oh, I've been doing this since I was a child," blah blah blah, which can be very difficult for those people who have to learn it.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, I can never be as good because I've never had that gift. And people always talk about gifts. It's I mean, certainly some people have maybe an easier time with certain things. I mean, it may be the same in dancing. You and I, we both dance. And so
Yeah.
many times I hear, "Oh, I can't dance. I have two left feet." Well, and then they look at me dancing, right? "Oh, you're so good." I'm like, "You didn't see me 15 years ago when I first started,
Mhm.
right?" So
Right.
everything, every skill, be it language. I mean, we all had to learn how to speak. We all had to
Mhm.
learn how to walk, potty training, etc. Right?
Right.
Those are all skills. So whatever we have or don't have now is a skill that we've either learned or we haven't learned yet.
True.
So it's a skill and it takes practice. And so I just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's awesome. That's so true. That's so true. Um, let's talk a little bit about the role of intuition in veterinary medicine. So, how does intuition show up in your practice?
Well, for me, it certainly comes in observation is a big part as well, where I'm basically sensing just from looking at them, looking at their eyes, just getting their posture, like body language, basically, that tells me,
Oh,
watch out, fingers getting chopped off here, or no, you can relax, and some
yeah.
of it is also, um, it's certainly energetic as well, because there are certain dogs where I know they can be a little bit on the on the edge of potentially being a little bit nippy that scare the living bejesus out of me, like Rottweilers. And
Yep.
there are others where I'm like, yeah, they can bite, but he's just, where I'm not that bothered by it. And I think it's what I'm picking up from them too. So I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not very good with aggressive animals because it triggers fear in me. Probably their fear gets into me in some way, and vice versa. Obviously,
Right.
then they pick up on mine, and then it's not usually not very good. But I've certainly been in situations where I was fine with a dog who was a little bit on the nippier side, and the other person who was supposed to hold the dog was freaked out, and the other way around, So it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So obviously our own thing gets in the way or contributes as well of our own experience and senses, but certainly um, especially when I do body work on them. I use my intuition all the time to kind of lead me to where I need to go, where the issues seem to be, and just a sense. I just try to stay somewhat open, but sometimes it can be challenging too, because you also have the pet owner talking, the animal talking, someone else
Mm-hmm.
talking, and it's sometimes hard to focus on all of these different aspects. But certainly, I guess on some level, I scan,
Mm-hmm.
see, and scan, look for patterns basically too,
Yeah.
because I think a big part is not just picking up on what's going on with the animal, it's also picking up what's going on with the people, because they oftentimes and it's perfectly normal. I'm not judging or anything, but they usually take up a whole lot more space than the animal. And so scanning what may be going on there, what's you know all of that. So it's basically I have to have like scanning of the entire room. And then also if I work with a technician, making sure that I scan them as well on some level to make sure that that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes when we're kind of have worked things out and are a good team, it's not such a big um, attention puller, but
Yeah.
uh, certainly that plays a role too. But yeah, just scanning and feeling them.
And has this helped you like make diagnoses or treatment plans when you're able to do this?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It gives me just a sense of, okay, I'm still missing something, or there's got to be
Mhm.
more. Can't just be that. Or also kind of thinking, okay, what supplements plan do they need? How quickly can I move forward? Are they an animal that has a lot of energy? Do they not have a lot of energy? How much can they handle, how quickly, that sort of thing. I would often also just go into stand in front of all the supplements that I have and just kind of sense, okay, well, I think we need a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then just put it in my box and go back in the room and then see what they need. So there's definitely that
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Are vets trained to tap into their intuition on some level in vet school, or are they taught to ignore that? Or do you
Um, I think neither one.
know
You know,
they're
I don't think it's being addressed at all.
okay?
At least not when I was in vet school. Nobody was
Right.
talking about it. I mean, I didn't even know there was such a thing as animal communication when I was in vet school. Um, I mean, it may be different now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole fear-free movement coming along, there's probably more, training that way happening, sensitivity training and being able to read the animals and such. But certainly any veterinarian would have trained their intuition, whether they are aware of it or not,
Yeah,
because otherwise you're going to not really come out in one piece.
that's
You
true.
know what I'm saying? Because if you can't read the animals, then good luck, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, how important is your gut feeling when you're evaluating an animal?
Yeah, I mean, that's all kind of a part of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you think
I,
the animal is trying to share something with you as you're examining it, just to kind of show you, like, no, it's here, or do you ever feel like a connection, like telepathically, that they're trying to show you something?
yeah, yeah. Maybe not in the same way that you know, just as I'm picking up from you what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's more that my hands just, I feel like this is where I need to go. So it's not so much that I feel like they're telling me from their brains type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
It's more that I'm just sensing the energy, probably also a bit of the energy disturbances or the stagnations or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, where I feel like, oh, I got to go there. And then I will work on it until I feel like, oh, there's some, you know, resolution happening,
Yeah.
you know, where it's flowing again, or, you know, it's just a sense of, yeah, a sense of relief, release, peace, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do
Mhm.
you find that, like, when you're doing or using the some animal communication and coming through, you said you sense a lot of things like feeling, or just knowing, right? So, um, getting that information, how has that changed the course of treatment that you pick up?
Well, I mean, now that I'm more trained in it, obviously it's always part of it.
Yeah.
So I can't say that it changed the course. Well, I mean, as you know, I also use a lot of muscle testing
Yes.
to help
Yes.
me with that, which in a sense is another way of using intuition on
Yeah.
some level, because obviously I'm using a surrogate to do the muscle testing, so it's very physical, a little bit more, or a little less subjective, I guess. I mean, it's not completely objective because it's never 100% accurate, but certainly it kind of bypasses my brain just a little bit, so it gives a little bit of extra objectivity, so to speak. But oftentimes, you know, I will kind of move along and muscle test, and I'm like, oh, I know already that the muscle is going to be weak.
Mhm.
Before I
Mhm.
push on it, so I already know. So I have also found that muscle testing itself increased my ability to sense things. And so
Yeah.
nowadays, when I work with my people in the group to help them with their sensitivity and such, I just have them start with muscle testing, and then eventually they actually get better and better at it, where they're like also not needing it as much to help
Mhm.
it. But I also, when I very, you know, some of the first experiences that I've had with a couple of Afghan hounds that I was taking care of, they both had adrenal fatigue and such. So I would just go into the store, you know, like one of these health food stores with supplements. I would just, without them, I would just hold the supplement and then just picture putting the supplement on them, and
Mhm.
then feel what their energy was doing,
Yeah.
you know, and then, you know, if one of them fit, I'd take it home and then
Yeah.
give it to them. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Mhm.
Going back to, like, the pet parents, you were talking earlier how sometimes we have to deal with their energy a little bit more.
Mhm.
We've talked on the show in other sessions about how animals mirror their pet parents, and there can be mirroring going on both sides. Do you see that a lot in your practice where they
Yeah,
know
yeah,
their
all
owners?
the time, all the time, all the
Can
time.
you explain to our listeners and viewers what that means?
Yeah. So, for example, I had you know, in the beginning, I was doing more like obvious animal communication. So I would go to people's homes and actually talk to their animals. Or,
Oh, cool.
I mean, animal communication is not about talking to animals. it's having a communication with them where you listen to what they say, basically.
Yeah.
So because that's one thing that you probably hear a lot too. Can you please tell my dog to stop barking? I'm like, well, I'm sure you've told them, but did you listen to why your dog is barking? But in any case, so I went to a client of mine who had, several animals, and one of her cats kept meowing
Aw.
at her constantly.
Mm.
So I tuned into the cat, and the cat said, well, she works too much. So the owner decided, okay, well, I'm going to listen to my cat, and worked less, and the cat stopped meowing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's not an exact mirror, but they're basically, whatever they're doing is something that is worth investigating or listening to,
Yes.
and see, okay, what is that all about? And then see, what could that be about in me? Because that's with everything in life, right?
Yeah.
If somebody yells at you, or whatever the situation is, it's never about the other person or the situation. It's always an opportunity or an invitation for us to learn something from it and to grow from it.
Yeah.
And same is true with our animals. Do we have an aggressive animal? Do we have an animal that is anxious, that is scared of fireworks, or that doesn't like something? Obviously there are also sometimes the mirroring on the actual physical level, where the owner will tell me, dog has inflammatory bowel disease and GI issues, and they say, oh, I have that too.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that all the time as well. And certainly there's an energetics to it, but they also live in the same environment.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's a part of it too. But yeah, everything that an animal does, that especially the things that we don't like that they do, is usually an indication that, hello, here's your mirror, learn from it, and then when we
Exactly.
do, then things can change.
Yes, yes. How many times have you had to, or let me ask you this, have you had conversations where you had to address like heal, tell the guardian, work on, healing yourself, and then you'll see your dog or your cat start to come along as well. Because I think it's cool how, yeah, they share same energetic fields, it's mingled. Um, and so many times, like you said, even in the work that I do, so many clients are like, oh yeah, I have the same, digestive issues, I have this issue, we both have this, and I'm like, well, that's not an accident.
No, it never is.
No, it's
No.
not an accident. So are
Yeah.
your guardians open to hearing that? Sometimes, maybe not all cases, but maybe some.
Well, generally, people who are not interested in hearing things, they don't come to see me.
That's true.
Yeah.
You have a niche.
I mean, that's just how it is. I think we attract what we need.
Yeah.
Uh, because I do a lot of work on myself. I basically, everything that I see, I'm like, okay, what is that about? Maybe I'm overdoing it. Maybe I need to relax with it a little bit, because that's how I always say, oh, what's wrong with me, right? When something is not going quite as planned, or I'm more tired than I think I should be, I'm
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Right?
What do I need to address?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe I'm overdoing it, but generally, yeah, people who come to me, they're willing and open to changing. And I read the people as well and see how much can they handle. Some people are more open than others, and with some people I could go really deep and look at, what are your patterns, what are your fears, what is driving you, what is driving the whole situation, and then others not so much, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
But I will still kind of put in little bits and pieces just to kind of start to maybe get them to be a little bit more aware, if need be. But then on the other hand, I don't know why people come to me, what it is for them. I'm just here to give what I have to give, and then the rest is really not up to me. So I will never be
Right.
judging if somebody is not what I would consider open, because what do I know?
Right.
Because I had experiences where, I would, because when I start my sessions with my group, I always start out with what can we celebrate, what good things have happened, because what we focus on generally grows, right? So if we can focus
Yes.
on more positive things, then that grows, rather than if we're always focused on the negative. And so I have some, for some it's very difficult to say anything that's good, because there's so much fear and so much trauma from before that's sort of in the
Mhm.
way. And when is the next shoe going to drop, and that sort of thing, or I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
So but still, I've been very surprised, on several occasions where, yeah, I keep saying my whatever I'm saying. I don't know if it's received, but then I hear later that it was received. So just because somebody may not appear open doesn't mean they aren't.
That,
It means that they're just taking it in a different way. So, I'm yeah. What do I know?
no, it's
That's
true.
always what I say, because I really, everybody has their own lessons, their own journey, and I have mine. I can only know as much as I know about mine. I can't know anything about anyone else's, really. I
Yeah.
can just share what my experience is in some ways, and
Yeah.
my wisdom. So
So I would think that it's probably common um, in your line of work where you see the animal carrying stress that belongs to their humans.
yeah, or they're just sharing it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely.
Because oftentimes, obviously, there's been some trauma possibly in the animal, or they're already coming with like a body that's deficient in certain nutrients, and they can't even be calm. And so then, they will mirror things in the humans. But certainly, again, we all live in the same environment. So I have seen an increase in anxiety in animals with,
Mhm.
parallel to the increase of anxiety in humans, because we all live in this soup of stress and fear,
Yep.
because we are going through a lot of change right now. We also live on the same planet of toxicity and deficiency, because I do see a lot of animals, they just have nutrient deficiencies. Their bodies can't even function properly because they're
Mhm.
not having the nutrients they need to be able to be calm and not so scared. So
Right.
it's really multifaceted on that level.
That's fascinating.
Then the
Um,
gut biome, right? Can't
yeah.
not talk about the gut,
Yeah.
what the
Absolutely.
microbes are doing. I mean, they are playing a role.
Absolutely. That's so true. And we share that microbiome with our pets if they sleep with us and we kiss on them and they kiss us and you know,
Exactly.
there's a lot of sharing going on in a home. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so that's true.
yeah.
Um, yeah, let me ask you another, like, on a different topic. Um, Reiki and energy healing. Do you use any of that in your practice, or do you um, refer out? I mean, I know I've worked with one of your clients with doing energy healing work on one of her pets, but just in general, how do you do any of that yourself, or do you know vets that do?
I mean, I went through the Reiki
Okay.
initiation and all of
Yeah.
that way back when. I don't really consider that I do Reiki. I think when I do the energy work, it's just energy that's flowing, whatever
Mhm.
that is. Do I offer it specifically as its standalone thing? No, because um, there are other people who can do that.
Yeah.
I focus more on the physical aspect of things, of
Mhm.
providing them, with the nutrients they need, helping with detoxification, getting the hormones to work properly. Because the thing is, you can be, or an animal can be overly sensitive because there are a lot of things that are not in place on the physical level.
True.
And so my focus is a little bit more on that, but I never lose track of the other either. But I find that that's a little bit more where where things are needed, where I can be more helpful
Mm-hmm.
in time. I mean, it may change because I know there are all kinds of machines and lasers and, bioenergetics, whatever. I mean, there are so many things out there, and we can certainly focus on that. But if you don't provide the base foundation of things, the body just can't work because
Right.
we're as much physical as we are energy. So
Yeah.
we have to take care of the physical, to be able to have good energy. So, I mean, I guess it works the other way around as well. And I know there are a lot of miracles of people and animals who all of a sudden, had cancer and now they don't, so there's a lot of miraculous things that happen as well. But I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know why exactly, but right now that's what I'm more focused on.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And do you see that animals respond well to energy work, when no
Yeah.
matter what kind of energy work that might be?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, talking about your client and mine, I mean, certainly I always saw a difference, but I know that you always work with the people themselves too.
Yeah.
So I think the shift has, especially, you work more with cats. The cats are extremely sensitive animals. They will also be very clear about what's working and what's not working, and what they want and don't want, more so than
Mhm.
dogs, for example. So I think that especially with cats, you can have, shifts that are pretty fast that way too. I mean, not with dogs too. I mean, I'm not saying, but
Yeah.
cats have a little bit of a different function. They keep people a little bit more on their toes that way.
They are very sensitive spiritual little beings, aren't they?
Yeah.
This one, she's something has upset her, and she goes in the other room and she cries really, really, really loud. I,
Mm.
yeah, so she's trying to get my attention for something. What is
Yeah.
it she
Yeah.
wants? I
Oh,
think I know.
it's clear, huh?
I think I know what she wants, but I can't do it right now. It's-
Well, it's funny, the people who use the buttons for their animals, and there was this one cat just hit the mad button, mad, 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 mad. It wouldn't stop. And then some dogs are very slow, they push a button and then the owner asks another question and then it takes another 10 minutes for the next button to be pushed. And then the other day I saw a dog, he was like going through his buttons like really quickly and treat, 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 that. And I'm like, how did he even know which button to push? And, and it was almost like a full sentence that this dog popped out. And you could tell, I mean, that dog had no patience at all. I want this now, and you human better get moving. And very
That's
hard to
hilarious.
like totally like people are stupid or something, right?
Right. Like what part of hurry up don't you get? Come
I
on.
know, right?
Stop, stop.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah. So that was funny. Whether
That-
that was AI or not, who knows? Because nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of it is AI.
right.
Um, but anyway.
But those buttons do just they leave me in awe of what pets select, which
Mhm.
which only goes to show you how really higher level they are operating on. You know,
Mhm.
we don't.
Yeah.
I don't think people really give them the credit that they deserve for understanding things on a higher level than we can actually comprehend sometimes.
Mhm.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about animals as spirit guides. Are you familiar with that whole like soul contracts and animals are in pet parents' lives for a connection and there's a purpose and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen any or have any examples or stories that you've experienced in your work?
Well, I mean, I often feel that animals kind of stick around sometimes beyond what's physically comfortable,
Yeah.
because they're not quite done with something, and
Mm-hmm.
or they have to prepare the pet parent, you know, so that they can then let go a little bit better.
Yep.
I think that's especially for those who are sick for a long time before they depart.
Mhm.
I think they certainly do a lot of work on that level. I mean, I've been told that, there are soul contracts and things like that going on, but I think from a three-dimensional brain perspective, I mean, I can't say that I know for sure. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I don't want to put it out there. Oh, I know we have soul contracts, and
Right.
probably do, but it's probably even limited in how we look at it. I'm sure there's probably even more to it, but we can only understand this much.
Right.
It's our brains, the way we're wired, we can't understand greater truth uh,
Mhm.
in this physical body that we probably would be able to understand if we weren't here. Because I have my own spirit guides, and I ask them questions and things, and they're like, we can't explain it to you because you wouldn't understand. And that drives me nuts, obviously, because I'm like, I want to know,
Totally
but
understand. Yeah.
I understand too. We have limitations in this
Mhm.
in this form because, for example, we can't understand infinite, right? I mean, I cannot wrap my head around infinite. I cannot wrap
Yeah.
my head around that the universe is not going anywhere, because to me everything has some boundary, right? Like, I'm
Right.
inside the house, now I'm outside the
Yeah.
house, sort
Yeah.
of.
Limits.
So there's no border. I mean, I can't comprehend that, and I think, uh, yeah. Anyways, to bring it back to soul contracts and such, let's just enjoy them while we have them, and use them, or accept them as our teachers, and help teach them as well, and just enjoy that time that we have, and then move on,
Yeah. And
basically. you know
exactly. And I tell people all the time, think about all the things that your animals have taught you.
hmm
Whether you go through good times or bad times, and it seems like we learn more in the bad times, right?
yeah.
Are the struggles, the illnesses, the emergencies,
hmm
the divorces, whatever the case might be that's really, really hard that
hmm
people go through, that their animals go through with them. Has any animal ever communicated things that are profoundly or deeply spiritual in your work?
Yeah, I mean, all the time they always say, I'm okay. I
Yeah.
think that's the most spiritual thing that you can really hear. I love you, and I'm okay, no
Yeah.
matter, because they have an ability of just flowing with things. And I remember at one point, I used to have a donkey who had laminitis, founder, so bad inflammation in her hooves, and a lot of pain, because when the feet are inflamed, there's nowhere to expand because the hoof capsule is hard. So the swelling,
Mm.
it's like having a headache. The brain doesn't. I mean, the bones don't expand, so you have swelling in a tight area, which is uncomfortable. But in any case, I tuned into her because it was really causing me a lot of pain, that she was in so much pain.
Mhm.
She basically showed me that she's just circulating the energy.
Mm.
So it's not just staying there. I mean, she's not doing it on purpose, but it's just like she's not resisting it, I guess, would be another way of explaining it. And so I tried that the next time I went to the dentist. When they have to do something that's a little bit painful, if you just kind of let go into it, it doesn't seem to be the same. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's a sensation, maybe a tad unpleasant, but it just becomes more of a sensation rather than a pain. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's definitely something, because a lot of the pain that we have as humans is self-made, because we have resistance to something. We resist something, we resist the change, we resist whatever it is, and
Right.
that's what causes the pain, basically. And so they have a way of not resisting so much to things, and they also get over it much more quickly.
Yes.
The other day I watched a documentary of a chiropractor, Dr. Komaric, I think is his name, and he was working with a horse that had really bad experience. I don't really want to go into it because it's kind of horrific. As a 2-year-old, and then was rescued and would not let anybody close. Was very, like very protective, like like constantly on guard. Had
Yeah.
other dogs, other horses protect her, that sort of thing. And then he worked on her, and she was she had done a 180 completely. And that's how animals change. They can change very quickly. I mean, some will also take their time, but animals can change very quickly. We humans tend to be a little slower in it, but maybe because we just have to explore it more. It's just it's a different thing for us. We have to explore. We have to examine things. It's like looking at things under the microscope, and then you change. Whereas with animals, it's easier for them just because
Yeah.
they may not need to. That may not be their goal. Our purpose may be different, as humans, to learn and to grow and to expand and to understand and to have more awareness, whereas animals, they just bring their whole heart,
Yeah.
bring themselves. It's just a different function, a different purpose, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I do feel like they're able to shift things a lot faster, where we kind of get stuck in the muck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it manifests in our body, just like it can theirs,
Mm-hmm.
where there's stagnant energy, like you said, we're saying earlier, that can start to create problems and organs and tissues and systems in that particular region that obviously it's all synergistic, so it affects everywhere else eventually. So yeah, if we could just learn a few lessons from our animals about releasing and letting things go, we would be in a much better place physically, emotionally, spiritually, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes practice doing that. And it's I think some people get so familiar with being stuck in that
Mm-hmm.
loop. It's familiar, right? So letting go means getting out of the familiar into something unfamiliar, and people don't, it's the fear thing.
Yeah, it's scary. It's
It's,
scary.
yeah. So, but when you realize that there's really nothing to fear about it, it's just a shifting, it's changing.
Mm-hmm.
We could be rewarded with so many blessings if we would just let go of the stuff that doesn't serve us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And pets do that. They demonstrate that so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way they can, just like you were saying, just let go, like the
Mm-hmm.
horse, and live a life instead of living in fear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was really amazing. I mean,
When you
yeah.
let go of the trauma, it doesn't control you anymore, and you can just breathe and just be,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
great.
Being open and being vulnerable is not something that we humans, learn, because we learn that, you have to be a certain way to be loved. You have to do this, that, and the other. We all have these, things that are kind of rules that are put on us. And then, as children, and then as an adult, you have to undo all of that.
No, it's true. It's harder. It's harder the older you get, because we get so stuck in our ways.
Well, it depends. I mean, for me, as I'm getting older, it's getting easier. But
Ah,
I've done the practice.
you've done the work.
I've done the work. I
Yeah.
continue to do the work. Doesn't mean I don't get stuck here and there, anyways. But
Yeah.
it's faster. Change happens faster because I've done the work, and I recognize patterns. I don't stay stuck as long. Hopefully.
Yeah. No, I'm the same.
You know,
Yeah.
So it's a skill.
It is a skill.
Like anything else, it's a skill to recognize what pattern you're operating under, and what belief system is rearing its head, and then ask for some change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to give our listeners some practical things that they could do to start developing the intuition with with their animals.
Mm-hmm.
Can anyone learn to communicate intuitively with their animals?
Yeah, for sure. Aren't you teaching courses for animal communication too, or is it just the muscle testing?
Just the muscle testing, but I know people that do animal communication courses.
Yeah.
And yeah, anybody, like you said, some people have been doing this since childhood and they recognize that. And
Mm-hmm.
other people come into it later in life and they realize that they've had this ability all along, but they just didn't know how to hone in and direct it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely a skill that people can learn. And it's very,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that there's only one way to do it because there's so many different ways
Yeah.
people do pick up and develop that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's powerful if anybody wants to explore that
Mm-hmm.
learning. Definitely, you know, see what's out there and
Mm-hmm.
reach out to us if you want some people to go check out. I can definitely help you with that.
Yeah, but I mean, even just learning the muscle testing is a big deal
Yeah,
too. If you have to, it also forces you to get out of your head.
yeah, it
Because
does.
say, well, what if it's me just pushing harder? So it's a skill of sensitivity. It's also a skill of learning sensitivity.
Yep, yep. And trusting your intuition, right? So many
Yeah.
times people tell me that they can't muscle test because they don't trust their answers.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I have ways to work around that and to get them out of that loop.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like we all have that intuition and it's built in us.
Mm-hmm.
We can't question it sometimes. I think
Mm-hmm.
we're just so used to, like, if we can't see it with our own eyes, we question everything, right? So they don't trust it. So when it comes through that little knowing or that little voice, that little pause that our intuition gives us sometimes if we're doing something, and we ignore it, and then we have negative consequences because we ignored it, and it's always after the fact that people tell me, something told me I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have done that, and I didn't listen, and this happened, and I'm like, well, did you learn the lesson?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was you meant to go through that in order to learn to listen to your intuition next time. It's screaming at you, don't do that, don't do that. Not a good idea. You won't like the outcome. Listen to your intuition and start trusting it, because I mean, it's a God-given ability. We have this.
We all
You
have to.
know, use it. Use it. I mean, I could go on and on about stories of my just personally learning to trust the intuition and the greater outcomes, like beyond imagination, that can result because of trusting and following instead of getting in your head and doubting and questioning. Well, you know what I mean? I mean, there's ways you can
Mm-hmm.
ask for confirmations. There's nothing wrong with that, so that you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, muscle testing is so very cool because it does teach you to tap into that ability to ask somebody questions, get yes, no answers that are very clear, and training. It's like a muscle. You work out, you train, you get stronger. The more you use it, the better you get. And then it's like muscle testing on steroids, where you get the answers before you even finish testing. It's like the downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Yeah.
kind of things start to come, and then the testing just confirms
Mm-hmm.
what you're getting. It's like, wow, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you there's another question I was going to ask you. What are some common signs that you see that an animal is trying to communicate with us?
Oh, and they stare at you.
Yeah. Or scream.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. They're like, hello, please. Yeah, certainly that's one of them, and yeah, probably the bigger one.
Just their eyes.
Yeah, their eyes. Um, but it's not like I want to communicate with you necessarily that they are saying. They're communicating with us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I have a dog in my practice that's scared and hiding under the bench. They're not maybe saying in words, "I'm scared," but I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean,
Language is pretty clear.
communicating that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty clear. So they're communicating all the time. So it's not just one, but certainly I've had numerous animal patients where um, one of the visits they would kind of stare at me, and then they put them down later on.
Mm.
It was more like, oh, okay, oh, they were saying goodbye or thank you or something along those lines. So certainly when they look at you a little bit more intensely, that can also be them just kind of sending a message, and you may not get it in the moment, but maybe later.
Yeah. Later it'll come back to you or make sense.
Yeah, but certainly, yeah.
I find that animals who are acting in a different or odd way
Mhm.
are trying to communicate something.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like doing something totally out of character that
Mhm.
doesn't make sense to us in the moment. We're like, why did my cat do that?
Mhm.
And then it may not come to you right away, but if you really sit with it and you
Mhm.
start to look at things from their perspective and just what, like you said earlier, having an open mind,
Mhm.
kind of let the information come to you,
Mhm.
you can figure it out.
Mhm.
You have to be you have to be open minded, I feel, and
Mhm.
you have to be a good detective sometimes, don't you think? Like just start to
Mhm.
uncover lots of different
Mhm.
be willing to look in places that you haven't looked for information or for answers, or look at it from a different viewpoint.
Mhm.
Ask a ton of questions, right? Just
Mhm.
instead of getting stuck in the same old rut routine,
Yeah.
like why is my cat crying like that? That's not a usual cry, or that's
Mhm.
or the dog doing certain behaviors that are unusual, and we're thinking, well, they don't act sick, you know? Is there something else going on? Just being willing to slow down and start asking questions, right?
Yeah. But we also then have to be willing to open up and listen
Yes,
to the answer that comes, and especially with our own animals, it can be more challenging. And so
100%.
it can be helpful to have an animal communicator who can, because they're outside of the box that we're in with our animals, so they can have a better, you know, view of what may be going on, certainly.
Nice.
But also, I think we also have to be open to the fact that they are quite intelligent. Many animals are still treated as little babies, little kids, little, like in a way minimalized or infantilized or whatever the word is. But just to also look at them as your partners rather
Mhm.
than your
Sure.
children, sort of thing, because they are more than that. And
Right.
so we want to make room for who they can be as well, and
Yeah.
not just, treat them like kids, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's really important too, because I've seen definitely some dogs in my practice where the person was an animal communicator, and there was definitely a different feeling coming from their dog,
Mm.
where the dog was, you could tell the dog was used to being listened to, and was also expressing himself in that way, basically. So that was quite interesting too. Plus, when you really communicate with your animals, you're then also learning that they're actually your partners, and equals on some level. Anyways, I mean, they're always going to be, you know they will need you to make their food and that sort of thing, and keep them from running out in the street when a car is coming and that sort of thing. I mean, we still have to keep them safe, but
Yeah.
the partnership is maybe more on a soul, heart
Yeah.
of level where it's good to it's good to listen to them, and hear what they have to say so
Yeah.
that they can express themselves. I mean, one example I had was a dog who was very depressed.
Mm.
And what I found was that she was spayed without consent. So
Oh.
they just spayed her. They didn't know to ask her whether she wanted puppies or whether she wanted to be spayed or what she wanted, and they just spayed her.
Oh.
She became really depressed, and we talked about it, with her, and then I don't know that she really wanted puppies, but nobody asked her if it was
Right.
okay.
Right.
I think that was more of the issue than whether she wanted puppies or not. It was more about, nobody
And
asked.
her voice. Yeah.
And
Letting them
as soon as I left, apparently she kind of perked up and was back to her old self.
because
So
she felt heard. She
yeah,
felt
she felt heard. So we need to hear them, and I think that's where the partnership comes. But sometimes what they say may not always be what we want to hear. I want more exercise. Well, it's freezing cold out. I don't want to go, right?
right.
But
Right.
they want to go. So they may tell you things that they're never going to judge. I mean,
No.
I've never seen an animal judge anyone, but they may have things to say that may still be a little uncomfortable. Like, the woman who is working too much, it's like, yeah, then you have to adjust your whole schedule and your workload and all of that to then appease the cat, right? Who's screaming at you.
Yeah.
So it will still, some of it will still require change in us, how we do things.
True.
And such. So, but in any case, I think it's very rewarding.
Yeah, I also have found like in some cases animals will say things that really don't make sense at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell the pet parent, just set it aside and you'll know down the road what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it may come to you in a week, 6 months, next year, you'll have an aha moment if you will just set it aside and don't get all worked up or upset that doesn't make any sense. Why would my dog talk about that? And you know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is, there's always a reason. And it's usually on some sort of a spiritual level that they're talking to
Mm-hmm.
us. At least that has been my experience because I have a whole journal of conversations that I have had with my cats in spirit when they would make themselves present and I would just free write their messages.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful, supportive, spiritual messages about growth and healing and spiritual development and what, encouragement for me. But sometimes in a conversation, pets will come across and say something really weird. And the parent just kind of goes sideways with it and goes, and they can get turned off by animal communication based on what comes out of the conversation. Like, well, I don't really understand or like what they had to say, or that doesn't make sense to me. And because I feel like sometimes the animals are on a totally different spiritual level than the people are. So there's a communication gap on in those instances. So that's why I just tell people don't write it off as a waste of time. Just set that piece aside and let it come to you later because you'll figure it out. When you're ready to figure it out, your intuition, your soul will show you what that means. But yeah, they can talk about things that might catch you by surprise and then not make sense at the same time. Maybe even talk about things that you don't know that's happened. Like, oh, my favorite ball is red, and we used to play ball all the time. And humans like, we never played with a red ball. Well, maybe that was in a different lifetime. Played with that doll, and that was their favorite toy. You just may not know, you may not remember, but they do. So it can be very interesting what can come up in conversation. So I find it fascinating, actually.
Yeah, and I think it also requires a certain level of curiosity and willingness to be open, to be curious, because I know sometimes there are also questions that we don't want to ask because we don't want to know the answer.
Yeah.
So I think, in the end, be daring on that level as well and ask the uncomfortable questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if they don't want to answer, they'll tell you, I don't want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
animals say that to the communicators, like, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shut down. Okay, we're not talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sometimes they're not ready to share something.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Um,
Yeah.
just to kind of wrap things up here, a couple thoughtful things. What has working with animals taught you about consciousness?
Good question. Well, I think the biggest part is being present, really. Because anytime I'm around animals, I kind of lose track of time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I used to horseback ride a lot. It's like I would have no clue what time it is. It was just taking me right out of that linear, human sort of brain.
Construct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably one of the bigger part. And, certainly they are showing us what it means to be present. And so I think that's been really important for me, for sure,
That's
to
amazing.
to be more present. And
Mm-hmm. And this may tie into that question, but if animals could tell humanity one thing, what do you think it would be?
get your act together. That's the first thing that came to mind. That's probably not inaccurate because they're suffering just as much as we are with all this stuff that we've done to this world. Yeah, get your act together. You see all of these, cartoons
Yeah.
where it's like three animals sitting, and then in front of them they're watching like bombs go off and God knows what else happening, and saying, and they think we're stupid, you
Yeah.
know, as the caption. So maybe I've seen too many of those. I don't know. But yeah, get your act together. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just true. We can do better. We can do better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all starts with us as individuals. So
Yeah.
focused our on ourselves and our sphere of influence, it could certainly um, ripple out. It does, for the better, for worse, right? It ripples out into our communities, into our states, into our countries, into the world. So um, I think I would say to people, just remember that you are the ripple. So what kind of ripple are you putting out? So I also love that you said just being present. I don't think people are present enough.
No.
It's just so distracting. The world is distracting. People are busy. They don't take time for self-care, number one, but they don't take this time for spiritual care, which is even more important than self-care, because if we don't have that spiritual connection, it kind of diminishes all the other things, right? Just we could be so much more conscious and so much more connected to others and to our pets if we just focus a little bit on that spirit inside of us, this to the universe. And I guess, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just one more thing. Get your act together. It may have been a little harsh, but I think behind it, I can feel is like, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things, because they don't overcomplicate. They don't care what they're wearing. They would probably rather not wear anything. They don't care about certain things. They're happy with what is, and I think that's probably part of it. Bring it back to simple. Simplify. Get rid of all the clutter. Physical and other clutter. Just simplify, be present, be here, enjoy. I think that's probably more of their message, I think.
Yeah. And then, okay, one final question for you. What do you hope the future of veterinary medicine looks like?
Well, I mean, that we wouldn't need any vets anymore.
Well, that would be great.
And all right. Well, the future, I don't know, just better working together. There's just too much conflict and judging back and forth. You know, I don't like my vet, and vet's saying I don't like people.
Mm,
I think that needs to change. The lack of trust
yeah,
happening, the lack of understanding as well, because you know, I think in general that's the case. We don't walk enough in other people's shoes for a mile, or even think about it to
yeah.
also kind of consider what the other party may be experiencing. So I think there's just too much judging without really knowing or understanding that's happening. And I think that's causing a lot of conflict and a lot of pain, heartache, misunderstanding where it didn't really need to be.
Well,
You know?
yeah. Do you see that in the veterinary profession as well? Just the grand scope of things, like certain lines of thinking versus other lines of thinking, integrative care versus conventional or holistic, or
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to kind of come together a little bit more, but it depends on the, on the person.
yeah,
I think in the end, we just need to find more,
common ground.
yeah, more common ground and also more acceptance. I mean, if somebody is completely different to you,
Yeah,
why not? Why do they have to be the same as you? You know, why does everybody have to do the same thing? Why,
we're not.
you know,
We're all unique individuals. We're not going to be the
yeah, so just to, have a little bit more understanding and acceptance and less judgment
same.
and more communication, because I hear so many times that, somebody just went to the vet and the vet said them that, and then they're like, I'm not doing that or whatever. Whatever the vet recommended didn't work out so well, but they never tell the vet that it didn't work out. I'm like, well, how are they supposed to know, or how are they supposed to help you if you don't tell them everything?
Yeah,
So it's like the whole communication. But then on the other hand, there are also vets who seem very pushy on certain things and say, well, I won't see your dog or cat if they're not vaccinated for something or other, So
right.
I think there's a lot of, you know, yeah, if everybody could relax a little bit, I think it would make a big difference.
Hmm. Yeah,
But everybody has to learn, and the learning shows up in whichever way it shows up. There are a lot of people who still have this whole God complex of the veterinarian or the doctor, where they don't feel comfortable expressing themselves because they feel like they're going to be smushed by
hmm,
by the vet, and then there are others that just come in a fight mode. Um,
yeah, yeah.
it goes, I mean, it always takes two to tango. So, if you're judging somebody, most likely you're contributing in some way to that
Hmm.
you haven't discovered yet. And
Right.
it's always an invitation to go a little deeper.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing the great tips and great insights and just food for thought. So, for you guys watching, I hope this has been very thought provoking. And I want you to look at your animals a little differently tonight. I
Mhm.
want you to sit and be present. And I
Mhm.
want you to listen to your intuition, right? So, start practicing that and exercising that muscle, because it is truly a blessing that we can do that. So with that,
Yeah.
we will wrap things up. Thank you so much, Dr. Suter, and thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be back next month for another show. Until then, have a great evening, you guys.
Bye, everyone, and thank you.
Okay.